All right, welcome back for Film Shake. Here we have a little extra goodie for you guys. This is a bonus episode we recorded for our Patreon. And if you're interested in bonus content from us, continually we do bonus episodes month to month. So we have one out now for our patrons for May that covers Paul Thomas Anderson movies, Neo Noir, some docu-horror, just a wide gambit of stuff that kind of breaks the mold from our normal 90s content. So we're giving that to patrons. If you sign up $3 and up, you get new content every month. But we wanted to drop this just for everybody here, just a little extra to kind of tease you guys with our Patreon, and we just really enjoyed this episode. We think it was a lot of fun. So basically, this is Nick and I picking 3 or more different things each to talk about. Usually we cover movies. Sometimes we jump into TV or music. But yeah, lots of movies here. So I think you guys will enjoy this. Lots of different stuff we get into. So check it out. If you are interested in our Patreon, then you can go to patreon.com/filmshake and sign up. So here you go. Here's the episode.
M&M's.
Oh yeah, I went to Walgreens today and they have the Easter ones, which are the best kind, for half off.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Get that junk after Easter.
That's right. Pastel shells all the way.
Are they actually really better in your mind?
I don't know, man. I've always thought they were better, but also like I remember like potty training, and they were my reward, and they just happened to be the Easter ones, and I thought they tasted great. And then when my sister potty trained, it synced up with Easter too, and they got them for her. And I was like, if she does good, can I have some too?
Right. So now they're just like forever stuck in your mind as a reward.
Exactly.
Like, nostalgic reward.
Mm-hmm. For all eternity.
Nice. For all eternity. Easter. M&M's. All right.
All right. Welcome to Film Shake. This is our bonus episode for the month of May. I'm Nick, and with me as always is Jordan. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, man. Doing pretty good. Pretty good.
This is the month of your birth, my friend.
I was born once long ago. Yep. Getting ready to be reborn for the 36th time. And have a big old crawfish boil down here. How we do in Louisiana, I feel like for the longest time, I always had a crawfish boil for my birthday, and it's been a while since I've done that, so it's like a throwback tradition.
Yeah, man.
About to throw down on some crawfish. That's right.
I remember
my wife even made a shirt that says, she made a vinyl t-shirt that says Crawfish Queen. That's how, I don't know, for some people, that sounds like we're going to be really country to some people. Like, y'all are having a crawfish boil, you're eating bugs and making shirts.
Nice. I remember your 17th birthday way back in the day. For your present, I got a $20 bill and I shoved it into an empty Sprite can. And I just gave you the can of Sprite and said, don't throw this away.
I vaguely remember that. That's awesome. Sweet, man. Well, I know you've been watching a lot of stuff. I've actually watched some more recent movies lately, so we can get into that.
Yeah, man. So I was recently ill. I haven't been sick in a long time, way pre-COVID. And I had this no vomit streak that was kind of like Jerry Seinfeld. Like do you remember the Seinfeld episode where he's got the streak going and then he eats the black and white cookie and gives this big, really, really kind of like into himself speech about the importance of the black and white cookie representing like bridging the racial divide and all these things and just going on, being so smarmy. And then it ends up making him sick and he throws up and Elaine makes fun of him.
Oh, well, nice.
I went on a streak from 1995 to 2006, did not throw up. Not one time.
Wow.
Not once. It was amazing. It was an amazing streak, and my wife ruined it. I won't get into how, but I totally blame her for me throwing up. And then after that, I was just like threw up a lot. Like it was like the floodgates opened. I was puking all the time. But then I kind of stopped, and I had another streak going. I pretty much forgot what it felt like to throw up. It was amazing. And then Easter night, I was in bed, and I was feeling fine. And then all of a sudden, I was like, something's wrong. And then that was it, Jordan. It was just, the floodgates opened. The puke spewed out, and it spewed out. And all of a sudden, I felt weakness. I felt weak, Jordan. I felt my strength leave my body. And I was like, what is this strange sensation? Jordan, I was sick. I got sick.
Oh, no.
I had to take off of work. It was so weird.
But you got to watch a lot of movies. So. Plus side, is it worth it?
I would say, yeah. All that puking was 100% worth it, for sure.
Nice.
I'm glad that I threw up that much because I got to stay home. Now, granted, I took off 4 days from work and ended up having to work 2 out of the 4. But the first 2 I didn't. So all I did was watch movies.
Nice.
And, I keep a blog, thenexperiment.blogspot.com, and I review a lot of stuff on there. So I thought, you know what? I'll review some on here. And the ones I reviewed were The Raid 1 and 2, which were both amazing. Enjoyed those a lot. And then I watched The Apostle, which was the other movie by the Raid director, Gareth Evans, which wasn't that great, but I reviewed that. But I watched some other movies, too. Another one I watched was The Train to Busan, which is a South Korean zombie film. Have you seen that or heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've never seen it.
That was really, really sad and tragic.
Oh,
and
no.
I'm going to write a review about that.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna go into that here.
Okay.
Jordan, you know what I am gonna go into here?
Batman?
Hey, you shut up. I am gonna talk about Batman, all right? We're doing that episode again. This is the second Bat-isode.
We're just going to talk about all the same movies again.
No. So actually this is thanks to you, my friend, because you asked a trivia question in the last episode where the answer involved the movie The Last Samurai from 2003.
Oh, yeah.
And I told you in that episode, my aunt got me that movie on DVD like a decade ago and told me it was good. And I said, oh, yeah, I heard it was pretty good. I'll probably watch this soon. And then I never watched it. It was still in the shrink wrap. And us talking about it made me think of it. And then when I was sick, I thought, you know what? I'm a captive audience right now. Why don't I finally watch The Last Samurai? Why don't I take the shrink wrap off this DVD, Jordan?
Nice.
And I did. And you know what? It was okay.
Yeah.
It was all right.
Big build up to, yeah, it was all right.
It was okay. It reminded me of, we just watched Braveheart in the main body of the episode. And we were talking about a lot of epic movies. And really, the big movies we get now, it's all superhero movies. Like anything that's got that big budget, we're not getting like these period pieces anymore. And these movies set in past times. So this is kind of like, I don't know, that era is kind of over, which I think is unfortunate. Because I really enjoy just that feeling of those movies. And I did with this for a while. It's a long movie. It's like Braveheart, it's almost 3 hours long. It's a little shorter than Braveheart. It's closer to 2.5 hours. And you've seen this already, so you already know about it.
Yeah.
It stars our old friend, Tom Cruise. I say that. We haven't covered a single Tom Cruise.
Is he an old
movie
friend?
yet,
Yeah. Is he a friend of the podcast? Like,
maybe he's not a friend.
I don't feel
know.
like he would be our friend because, like where you don't subscribe to Scientology. But
Yes, I feel like we'd make fun of him some.
yeah, I'm sure.
For sure. And did you see that last Mission Impossible movie?
I did not. I haven't kept up with a lot of those. So I don't even know what number we're on or what movie you're referring to exactly.
It's like 17. I think it was MI-17. Yeah. The end of that movie is literally him like in a bed because he saved the world, and all the characters of the film standing in a circle around him and basically saying, "We could never do this without you, Tom Cruise. We would all be dead without you.
Grown.
The world would have ended without you. It's just them praising him to a point to where it's like, wait a minute, like this feels weird.
Yeah.
I feel like he wrote and directed this scene. It's kind of strange.
And I do know, like, the only thing I really know about that movie, I think it was that movie, but it was some movie. I think it was a Mission Impossible movie he was making recently, where he was like, there were stories coming out from the crew that he was just yelling at everybody because they weren't wearing their masks or weren't practicing social distancing, and just, obviously concerned for legitimate reasons, but being like a total douche about it and like just going off on people. So with that, comparing that story to all these characters then having to pretend to really like him, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. I don't think it's a stretch to say he's a nutcase. The guy's nuts.
He's a good actor, though. I mean, I like him in a lot of stuff.
He is a good actor, and I just went into that whole spiel about Mel Gibson before. I'm not going to say Tom Cruise isn't a good actor or a charismatic presence, because he is both of those, and he's charismatic in The Last Samurai, man. And the direction from Edward Zwick, who I was trying to think of what this guy did before because his name seemed really familiar, but the only thing he's made that I think I've seen is Legends of the Fall.
He did Glory too, right?
He did do Glory, and maybe I saw that, but I don't really remember it.
I don't really remember it, or if I saw it either. But
yeah,
Legends of the Fall is classic. I mean, it's kind of like a epic soap opera, but I don't know. It's something at least. Got early Brad Pitt, early '90s. Come on.
Yeah, and the kid from E.T., but I always get it confused with The River Runs Through It, which is a little older than that.
I do like that movie a lot, though.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, yeah, well, I was going to say, if you want to see Brad Pitt's butt, watch A River Runs Through It. It's there. Anyone who's into that.
It's there.
I remember being like, I don't know, 11, 12 years old and thinking, I don't really want to see his butt. Why are they doing this to me? But it happened. So if that's something you want, A River Runs Through It. A lot of fly fishing in that movie.
Fly fishing in Brad Pitt's butt. I mean, that's all you need right there. That's what brings in the audience nowadays, yes. I'm sure. I need more fly fishing in my movie. And I need more bare-ass Brad Pitt.
It's a bare necessity. So I feel like I'm avoiding talking about The Last Samurai.
That sounds like it.
It's fine. I mean, I felt like I enjoyed. It's beautiful. I mean, it's a gorgeous film, man. The countryside in Japan is gorgeous. It's shot really well. I mean, there's a lot of actors I like in this. Billy Connolly's in it for a while. Love him. He's great. Hiroyuki Sanada, talked about him before. I love him. Ken Watanabe's great. Everyone's really good in this. And I thought it was pretty captivating for about the first 90 minutes. And then I started kind of losing interest a little. Tom Cruise basically plays... It's like that genre that we used to have where it was like, what if a white person? Like,
right.
What if?
Right.
What if during some of the ancient wars in Japan between the emperor and the samurai, what if a white guy was there? And what if he like determined how everything happened?
So you had
and was the root cause of everything.
Like I mentioned that, this movie mostly getting crap for that nowadays. So it sounds like that also gave you trouble.
Well, I was doing okay there because I was like, I mean, fine. It's like white people wish fulfillment of like, what if we were there? What if it was us that did this at this other place? Which, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Not great, but
it
fine.
Can't be as bad as The Great Wall with Matt Damon, which I have not seen, but I don't feel like I need to see because it looks so terrible, and it looks like even more egregious. I don't know. It's just. In ancient China, a group of European mercenaries encounter a secret army that maintains and defends the Great Wall of China against a horde of monstrous creatures, starring Matt Damon.
He always cracks me up because he's always trying to like push like social issues and things and be like very morally righteous. But then like he also always kind of exposes himself as literally his character from Team America World Police, which he's not playing himself in that. It's the South Park guys, but he just shows up and says, Matt Damon. And sometimes he just kind of is like Brad Pitt in A River Runs Through It. He just shows his ass. Like,
make some money, show my ass.
Yeah, except on a metaphorical level. And again, I'm not talking about The Last Samurai, but hey, I was still okay with what was happening, but then my interest started waning a little. But then it goes to like an insane level of what if white people, because the end of it is basically, what if white people weren't killed by bullets? Because Jordan, this final battle scene, it's just a really grueling battle, and it's pretty well done. It comes in stages, basically, where the Japanese samurai force that Tom Cruise is co-leading, they're going up against basically a westernized Japanese army that the emperor has sent, and they've got modern weapons, right? So first it's just regular guns that they're fighting against, and they beat those guys. Then it's cannons, and they barely beat those guys. And there's only a few Japanese people and Tom Cruise left. Well, then the westernized soldiers unveil their final weapon, and it's gigantic machine guns, right? Like just deadly weapons that revolutionize warfare from that point onward. So all the Japanese samurai guys and Tom Cruise are on horses, and they just run full speed into the machine gun fire. And they're all torn to bits, man. Like, just torn to ribbons. Everyone dies.
Except
but
for
not
Tom Cruise.
Right. It's like, what the hell? My suspension of disbelief. I could, like, what if a white person... I was like, okay, fine. I could deal with this. It's a 2004 movie. It's all good. Like, I know that a white person didn't do any of this, and there's, like, a guy that this is so loosely, like, historically based upon that if they told your life story, Jordan, and my life story, except they just called me Jordan Courtney instead, and said it was loosely based on your life.
Right.
I mean, fine, whatever. But, dude... Like, he goes straight into machine gun fire, and everyone around him is just shredded to bits. It's a violent rated R battle scene, and he's just fine at the end. He's not only fine, he goes to the Emperor and fills the Emperor with such respect that he basically grants the samurai the right of way because of the bravery of Tom Cruise. And at that point, I was like, damn it, this is dumb. Like, you lost me.
Wow.
You lost me. So this movie gets a 5 out of 10 from me.
Man, that's rough. I totally forgot about all that. I watched it a long time ago. So, but that, as you mentioned, that's pretty egregious. That's pretty rough. Like, what if white men were invincible? And yeah, totally just won the emperor over with his feats of bravery. Because he cannot be killed. Tom Cruise cannot be killed. I wonder if Tom Cruise has that in his contract for like every movie he makes. He's like, has Tom Cruise ever died in a movie? He got his eyeballs taken out in Minority Report, but then he got new eyeballs and he saves the day. Like, does he ever die? I think that must be in his contract. Like, I am invincible. My character may not perish because I do not perish. I am Tom Cruise.
Going back to Team America again, Tom Cruise promises he will never die.
Is that in Team America? I've never seen Team America, honestly.
Oh, man, I'm referencing a movie that you've never seen. I'm sorry, buddy. Yeah, so he's not in Team America, but the main character, before a really egregious puppet love scene that has puppets having sex in 19 different positions, he promises his girlfriend that he will never die. And it's like just so ridiculous. Like the camera like zooms in on him saying, I promise I will never die. And it's amazing. And also the celebrities all get together to like form an organization, and they all are introducing themselves and saying something about themselves. But then when Matt Damon comes out, he just says, Matt Damon. And that's it.
It sounds like you want to talk about Team America way more than you want to talk about The Last Samurai.
Oh, I do. I really do. But I won't.
All right.
But I won't. But I guess it has some similar themes to this movie.
It sounds like it. Well, to bring it in a different direction, one of the movies I've watched recently that I really loved was Deep Cover from 1992. Talk to you a little bit about this, and maybe we'll have a main episode for it one of these days, because it's kind of a undercover gem, pun intended there, because it doesn't seem like a lot of people talk about this movie or really know about it or have seen it. Criterion Collection recently put out a new Blu-ray edition of it, and it's by the director Bill Duke, and it stars Lawrence Fishburne and Jeff Goldblum, and it's just a really like incredible neo noir. It's basically Lawrence Fishburne plays a cop who's recruited by the Drug Enforcement Agency and to infiltrate like a drug smuggling ring. And so it's this whole story of like he's kind of like grown up. His dad was killed right in front of him as a kid. He was like a drug addict and got killed like in the midst of an armed robbery that goes bad. Like, and that's like the first scene of the movie. You just see like his dad's blood like splatter all over the car that young Lawrence Fishburne is in waiting for him. And so that basically like inspires him to like never do drugs and to, become a cop and like fight like the war on drugs, quote unquote, in the early 90s. And so basically he gets recruited to then go undercover to become a drug dealer. And so, there's this whole moral conflict with him. And basically it's not your like, it sounds like on the page like this kind of by the numbers, like, oh, undercover cop, but he gets in too deep and like, the lines get blurry. But it's not really that either. I mean, it has some of those elements to it, but it ends up being more about like the corruption of the, not only the drug dealers and the, the drug life that he's like living, but also like the police that he's working for too. Just like some dirty backstabbing and different twists and turns and stuff. But he's amazing in it, and Jeff Goldblum is amazing in it. Just like really stellar performances and some really cool, like, it's neo noir. So it's got like, the dark shadows and stuff, but mixed in with like lots of neon and like just blown out like reds and blues, and just looks really gritty and awesome, like early 90s LA. And so that's just really one of my like new favorite movies that I've seen recently. Just really blown away by it. So definitely encourage anybody to check that out. And then go ahead.
I really hope that at some point we can do maybe an episode on that, because it sounds like I would really enjoy it. It sounds really good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, it's just got a good like setup in the beginning, and then a nice like they bring it back and like pay it off at the very end. Like I always love that. Just very stoic Lawrence Fishburne, and a very like this calm kind of contemplative narration that he does throughout. That's actually really well done for voiceover. But to connect that to another thing that I watched, so that was like an early 90s crime film that I had not seen, that I went ahead and like got that watched, checked that off the list. But another movie that I feel like is a much bigger movie, more like a bigger cult following movie that I watched in the same vein was King of New York with Christopher Walken.
Oh, yeah. Now that I have seen, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, I had never seen this. I mean, it's kind of, always grew up like seeing the VHS box and seeing it on lists of like different crime lists and stuff, and Christopher Walken's best and that kind of thing. But it's from 1990. It's directed by Abel Ferrara, which I have not seen a whole lot of films by him. And apparently this is like when he was doing more like his kind of formalist, very like stylized direction. This is kind of like him at the top of his game. But it is very formal. It is very stylized because it's actually shot by the same cinematographer of Deep Cover. So it has that awesome... it's in New York, but versus LA, but it still has that same like awesome, gritty, neon, just dark, gritty, nasty, but also very like beautiful look to it. I don't know. There's just something about it. Both of these films, like it would be a great double feature. But whereas Deep Cover is, mostly seen, or definitely all seen from like a black lens and has like a lot of commentary on like being black in America. Here you have, Christopher Walken. He's like the white drug kingpin. He's finally released from prison. It seems like he's been in prison for years. And then he comes out of prison to take back control of like the criminal underworld. But he has like a secret passion of like giving back to the community, and he basically wants to like help the black community and bring like this hospital that is closed down like back to life. And like his whole crew is black as well. So he's like, somehow he's become this white dude who's like leading this like legion of young black man in New York, and Lawrence Fishburne is one of like his top lieutenant, which again, amazing performance from Fishburne here. Like I feel like Fishburne is becoming like one of my favorite actors recently, just having seen him for the first time in Boys in the Hood and like all these early 90s films that he's in. He's just really great, man. And the performance that he gives in King of New York could not be more different than the performance he gives in Deep Cover, which was just like 2 years later. Because he's in King of New York, he's this obnoxious, over the top, like cackling, like jackal of a evildoer, basically just out for murder, just killing lots of people, laughing about it, just very like enjoyable and charismatic, and you kind of root for him in a way, but he's also just like super obnoxious and like in your face, which is kind of the polar opposite of his character in Deep Cover. So that was really cool to see, which I think would also make this like an awesome double feature to watch back to back for anybody.
Sweet. Sounds awesome, man.
Yeah, dude.
I love Fishburne too, man. He's such a versatile actor.
Yeah, and you definitely see it in these two films. So I'm really excited to hunt down anything else there's a lot of stuff that he's been in that I haven't seen. So there's a good bit of mining for me to do.
Right, yeah, he's in so many things. He was in, and I don't know if I can't remember if we've had this discussion, so apologies. But he's in the John Wick movies too. He reunited with Keanu.
Oh, yeah. I've seen the first John Wick. So was he in that one? Yeah, he was in that one. I can't remember. I didn't really like that movie. Sorry. Sorry, everybody.
If you didn't like that one, then forget about it, because that's like the blueprint for all of them.
Right.
So, I like those movies a lot, and he's basically like he keeps pigeons. They're like pigeons.
Right. I think he is in the first one then. But yeah, he's very like the kind of more sage-like character that he became known for with The Matrix and like his later like roles when he's upper in age. It's just so different to see him in the early 90s when he's just this young man full of like bravado and charisma and I don't know, yeah, but also playing very different characters too. So
yeah, it's kind of nuts too, though, to think about that time period. That also in Boys in the Hood, he played the father figure around this time, and he carried so much like a sage-like authority even then.
Yeah, that's true. And you could call him a sage there, and he's amazing in that role. So yeah, he's just always meant to be that sage, I guess. But he can do so much more, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Like just realizing I've seen him in maybe like a more limited view as that sage, but then seeing him in these other roles, I'm like, oh dang, like he can be this, he can be that, he can do anything. So Lawrence Fishburne, what up?
Right. I mean, he's got that great compound last name, like Fish and Burns. They're like two completely different things. Fish live in water, fire and water are opposites, and this guy can cover the full spectrum. So
That's right. That's deep. There you go. It's right there in his name.
Hey.
Anyway, what else have you been watching?
So I went to see Ambulance, and I thought that ruled. That was like the exact kind of Michael Bay movie I want to watch. But I wrote a review for that, so I'm not going to get deep into that. Just if you liked Michael Bay movies in the 90s, before he started doing like the bigger, like more epic 28 characters in a movie and robots movies, you liked it better when there were just a few characters, but there was still like insane action. Like this is like the perfect distillation of that, because most of the movie is set in the ambulance, and there's a huge chase scene that lasts 7 to 8 of the movie, and it's awesome. So I recommend that.
I did not realize this was by Michael Bay.
Oh, dude, you gotta watch it.
So return to form a bit there. Like, would you compare it to The Rock and other early Bay stuff like that?
Right. So you and I, and our friend John, who we may be, listeners may be hearing his voice at a certain point in the future, but the three of us watched The Island back in early 2006, and that was like his little. That was kind of like his last kind of like smaller thing, like wedged between Pearl Harbor and Transformers.
Yeah.
And that was kind of goofy, but it was still like a really fun movie. Like I remember all three of us getting into it and being like, that was actually pretty fun.
Right.
Like
yeah.
it might have been kind of dumb, but we had a good time.
Yeah.
This is a level above that. Like this is going on with like The Rock and Bad Boys. I'd put it with those.
Is this based on another movie? I'm looking at the
Yes.
IMDb and
It is. Yes. I think it was a French film originally, which I have not seen.
Oh,
I guess
see.
I'm talking about Ambulance now. Well, let's just talk Ambulance.
All right, let's do it.
It's recent and it's interesting. Yeah, so it is based on a previous film which I haven't seen.
Ambulance.
And it is kind of like, what's that?
I'm just looking at the IMDb where it says based on the film Ambulancen. So yeah, I guess that's French.
Yeah, it's kind of just this high concept basically where you have these two brothers who one has been in the military and is a vet and he's trying to walk the straight and narrow, and his wife needs this expensive operation, and his brother usually is pretty wealthy, but that's also because he's a career criminal like their father was. So he basically goes and asks the brother, and the brother in this case is Jake Gyllenhaal. He goes and asks him for a loan, and basically Jake Gyllenhaal talks him into participating in a bank heist. The heist goes wrong, their entire team dies, and they end up having to basically carjack an ambulance with not the driver, but the EMT and a policeman that the main character, and his name is escaping me, but he was in the new Matrix movie, which I talked about before. It was not my favorite, but he was good in it. His name is Yahya Abdul Mateen II. So he's the main character, and he's kind of got PTSD from being in war, and he shoots a police officer, not fatally, but he wounds him really badly, and the ambulance comes to pick up the police officer. So they end up in this ambulance, driving the ambulance. So he's the driver because he's like, that's what he can do. That's like his thing. He's like an amazing driver. Meanwhile, Jake Gyllenhaal is just like playing an unhinged, like nut. Like he's crazy and he just hams it up the whole movie. A lot of the laughs in the movie come from him because his energy is just wacky. And I don't know, I like to joke around about like actors. Like they're probably all like insane narcissists for the most part, right? I mean, if you want to do that for a living, you gotta have some weird things driving you.
Right.
And he is always, to me,
I just need to
outside
be
of
seen.
Zodiac. Yeah, there's always been something like kind of gross about him to me. I don't know what it is.
After Donnie Darko killed it for you.
I guess so. He has like molester eyes. I don't know.
He
He's always
does
like,
have
"Hey,
molester
baby."
eyes. I like Jake Gyllenhaal a lot, but he does have molester eyes. Molester eyes? Is that like a verb?
He's a molesterizer.
He's a molesterizer.
I don't know. And again, I don't know the guy. Maybe he's a good guy in real life, but I don't
He's
know.
got
Something
soulful
makes me
eyes,
doubt
let's
that.
say that.
Oh, yeah, sure. Soulful eyes. So he just really kind of hams that up in this movie. Like, I feel like he's got to be aware of that to some degree. And he just plays like, he's nuts. He's like always like one coin hit in the floor from just losing his mind and going crazy. So he's got a gun on the EMT. The EMT is working on the police officer because the police officer is their hostage.
Right.
So if the police officer dies, they do have the EMT, but law enforcement is basically like chasing them through the city, but not shooting at them because they don't want to risk killing the police officer that's hostage in the ambulance.
Right.
So that's the concept, is that you've got a movie that's basically one huge chase scene through Los Angeles with lots of classic Michael Bay destruction and insane camera angles. There's a point where I swear, like, he just put a camera in a car that's flipping and the camera gets destroyed while the car is rolling over. Like, It's crazy, man. And it's like just what you want him to do. I mean, it was like a $40 million budget, but like, it's like you watch these $300 million movies and you're like, where the hell's the action? Like, where does this money go to? Like, I guess like crappy CG or something. But there's no CG in this, man. He just smashes like half the city while you've got just this really tense hostage situation going on at the same time. And it's a pretty thrilling little film, man. I enjoyed it a lot. It's one of those movies where, like, I was in the theater I took off half the day. It's the first movie I've gone to see by myself since COVID. I used to go all the time. Like I'd just take off the second half of a work day and then go to see a couple movies. And I hadn't done it in like 3 years. So I had a lot of fun doing it. Hopefully I can get back to doing that all the time
That
again.
sounds awesome. I want to do that.
Yeah, man.
You've inspired me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for I have
so good.
I have no staff that I can take off and do that, but that's another story.
That's a
One
bummer.
day, one
It's a
day
bummer.
this summer when I get more people that I work with and can back me up, I will do that. I'll take off and just go watch movies.
Yeah, you can just Don Draper out, dude. Because I'd say half of my favorite movies from the 2010s I saw while doing that, while taking off the second half of the day, leaving work, and just going to a movie by myself, man. It's my favorite. It's like, besides like if there's like a really big event movie that I go to see with my wife and my son together, like it's my favorite way to watch a movie, man.
Yeah.
And this one was great for that. And I mean, it's one of those movies where like you're so tense, you're just like swearing at the screen the whole time.
Right.
So like, and it's all adults there. I mean, it's a rated R movie, but it's the middle of the day, so kids are at school. So I'm just like yelling damn it and shit at the TV screen like every time I'm like nervous.
Right.
You know, like I was just like scraping the skin off my knees.
Nice.
Through my pants because I still had my work slacks on. But it was awesome. I enjoyed it a lot. If you like 90s action movies, go see this. If you like Michael Bay in general, go see this. Or if you just miss Michael Bay when he just did crazy action movies that didn't involve a lot of CGI and aren't 3 hours long. Go see Ambulance. I wasn't intending on talking about it, but
scraping the
should go
skin
see
off
it.
your knees and biting off all your fingernails, go see
And
this.
swearing at the screen.
And yelling at the screen. Nice.
Oh, and you know what? I feel bad. I didn't mention that the lead, I think her name is Isa Gonzalez. She plays the EMT driver. She's a boss in this movie. She's great. I was
Sweet.
really impressed by her. I think she's going to be a big star.
Sweet, man.
Or she should be.
She should be, at least. Well, you've really inspired me to go check this out because I didn't really know much about this. I saw that you liked it a lot, but did not realize it was Michael Bay and somewhat of a return to form, it sounds like. So that's really interesting.
This is all I want from him from now on. I know it's not really COVID made this happen because he couldn't get a huge scale production together
Right.
because of the virus, but he could do like something smaller scale like this. And I hope this inspired him. And he's like, you know what? This is what I like to do. And that's all I'm going to do until I die. That would be incredible.
Just make this one type of movie for the rest of my life.
That's it. That's
For
all
Nick.
I want from you, Michael.
For
Bay.
Nick in Louisiana. Nice.
That's right. Please.
Well, I've watched some recent stuff, not in the theater, but I did. So I've been watching some Paul Thomas Anderson movies that I had not seen before. And I just finished watching Inherent Vice from 2014. I had not seen that based on the Thomas Pynchon novel. And I am not even going to try and like dissect that or go into that right now after just finishing it today. I'll just say it is a wacky, extravagant, weird, twisty ride that I feel like if you tried to parse and make sense of, would kind of lose the joy of just the weirdness that it is. But yeah, it might improve on a second watch. I think, like you had said, you don't really vibe with it. I think a lot of people, it's not really their bag. But it's got an interesting like 70s vibe going for it. The whole like kind of last goodbye, like drugged up PI who's kind of like out of his wits and off his game, like investigating like a disappeared person. So I talked about Night Moves before, and it kind of gave me vibes from that. But anyway, I said we wouldn't talk about it.
Well, wait. Let me just say,
Yeah, you
for
say.
me, all I have to say about it is it's really the one movie of his that I don't like. And it's one of those movies where I feel like it just starts off and it feels like it assumes that you already care about the characters without really doing anything to make you care about the characters. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
So I had a hard time connecting with it because I felt like it just assumed I had already connected with it before it made any effort to do so. So
Well, it definitely doesn't make any effort to like help you through the journey of understanding anything, because I feel like, yeah, there's already just this wall of like impenetrability there, where you're just like, what is going on? What is happening? Nothing makes sense. But at some
And
point,
it bummed me out too because I'm a huge Joanna Newsom fan.
Oh,
who's
yeah.
a musician who's married to Andy Samberg, and I know that you were a fan of hers too.
Yeah.
And she is in this, which I like anything that she does. I think she's polymath. I think she's brilliant.
Yeah,
but
she is really good.
I just wish I
in it.
liked the movie.
Yeah, I liked her a lot in it. She plays the narrator and also like a ex assistant or good friend of Joaquin Phoenix, who plays the lead, the drug fueled Los Angeles private investigator Larry Doc Sportello, who's investigating the disappearance of his former girlfriend. But that is like the most like streamlined understanding of the plot, because there's just like any kind of good mystery, I guess, it takes so many turns and twists that it's upped to like an extreme level in this, where I'm just like, okay, there's so many people and places and words and names that I've never heard before that are being thrown at me that I don't quite understand how they all connect. But if you kind of let go of that and just like, you know, sit back and enjoy the ride, I guess, and accept it for its like weirdness, then perhaps that's the way to go with it. Again, I just finished watching this today, and it's a lot to take in. But I did think, like, I usually like Joaquin Phoenix a lot, but I found his delivery in this to be like a little off-putting or weak. I don't know. At times it just didn't feel like he was dialed in, or he was like really with it, or I don't know if it was the dialogue, the way that it was written based on this novel, that didn't really like jive with his like method of acting or something, because he's usually like, he's amazing, like top tier, like beyond level in The Master, which was made by by PTA with Philip Seymour Hoffman, and the acting in that is just insane, like, you know, next level. But in this, it just
one of the best performances ever.
Right,
I'm with you.
Right, like, I don't know, it just didn't feel like here he was just kind of off his game. But or maybe it's just the character he was playing. I don't know. But anyway, all that to say, I'm not going to talk about that movie. I'm going to talk about another Paul Thomas Anderson movie, which came out in 2021, which was Licorice Pizza. So this is, you know, the story of Alana Kane and Gary Valentine growing up, running around in the 1970s in the San Fernando Valley. And basically it's Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid, Cooper Hoffman. This is his first movie. And then Alana Haim, she is a musician that Paul Thomas Anderson has made quite a few music videos for her band of her and her sisters, Haim. She is really incredible. This is her first movie, and she just has a very like striking, engaging presence. So is Cooper Hoffman. Both of them just like really knocked it out of the park here. Thought it was really just intriguing and engaging. Very like just much a hangout movie where, like, again, not a whole lot of things connect or feel like it has much of a story, but it's more about like a place and a time and characters. So I couldn't really describe like the arc that they go through here, other than like she's 25 or maybe 28 and feels like she needs to get her stuff together, but then she's also like taken in and kind of intrigued by this 15-year-old actor played by Hoffman, who is just like a larger than life presence kind of, and just pulls her into like all these little schemes and stuff that he hatches, like starting a waterbed company or starting a pinball machine arcade, like when they first became legal again in the 70s, and all this just kind of out there stuff. But I have to say the scene stealer, like the main like moment in this for me that I think that will stay with me, is when they meet Bradley Cooper's character, who plays what's his name, John. Hold on.
The producer.
The producer.
John, is it John Peterson? Was that his name?
Not John Peters. Hold on.
John Peters. That's it.
Yeah. He plays the real life producer, John Peters, who was dating Barbra Streisand and during this time. And he went on to produce I know he had he went on to produce Wild Wild West and was just, I don't know, just kind of this larger than life kind of wacky character from Hollywood. But they have a scene with him where like they're installing a waterbed in his house and he just gets all up in this 15-year-old kid's face and was just like, oh yeah, don't fuck up my house, man, or I'll kill you and I'll kill your family and all this stuff. Like, it's just he's just like this insane presence in the middle of this like pretty chill, just all like sort of kind of love story. But yeah, I know you've seen it too, right? So I was curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, man, I really enjoyed this a lot. I watched this with my wife, and she's not like a huge Paul Thomas Anderson movie. God dog it. Let's just call him PTA, because you know what? I'm about to call him by the name of Event Horizon director
Right.
guy that I'll always get their names mixed up. But I'll just say PTA.
They're very similar.
So she dug Boogie Nights in the 90s, and she liked Punch Drunk Love, but we went to see There Will Be Blood, and probably the best cinematic month in history, December of 2007, even though, I think 1999 is the best year in cinema. We saw No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood, like basically back-to-back nights. I mean, that's unreal.
Yeah.
These movies are incredible. And she
super
wasn't
dark.
as big and super dark, which she doesn't really vibe with. So I've watched most of the PTA movies since then on my own, but she and I watched this one together, and we both enjoyed it a lot to where by the end of it, like, we pretty much just said to each other, like, I wish they still made movies like this. Like, this just feels like a throwback, man.
Yeah.
Like, and there's something that you really like that happens at the end of the movie that she also really likes. And not like a huge spoiler, but they finally kiss at the end.
Yeah.
And even though it's weird,
It is
because of the
weird.
age difference.
Yeah, it is weird. I was going to ask you about that.
I just reminded myself, like, my grandparents were my grandpa was 36, my grandma was 16, and that was in 1940.
Yeah.
So this is the 70s, so this is 30 years after that. But I mean, I don't know, the actor I don't think was a minor whenever they filmed this.
Right.
Which, by the way, man, he was great, and it's crazy. He's like a chip off the old block, man.
Yeah, for sure.
He's doing his dad's legacy proud in this movie, for sure.
Definitely.
But I enjoyed it a lot, man. I just love that vibe.
Yeah.
It's just like that chill out but still entertaining vibe where you just want to be in that world with the characters. And I've tried to get into Haim's music so much. I'm a metalhead, and I'm like, I need like more rhythm, like where are the drums? Like,
right. I haven't listened to any of their music, so maybe I'll.
There are like two of their songs that I like, but she's great in this. She's really fun. She's a really engaging presence, and I think they're great together. They have wonderful chemistry. All the actors in this are great.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper, I mean, I've loved him since Alias.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
wonderful. He's such a psycho. I think that guy was Cher's hairdresser too. He did so much stuff, man.
Yeah,
He's a character.
Just the whole scene of them like going to the gas station and running out of gas, and like there's a whole big plot point dealing with like the gas crisis in the 70s, which you would never, I don't know, you just never see that in a movie, which is just really interesting. But just, they have to basically, they run out of gas in this giant truck they're using for their business, and they're also like trying to escape Bradley Cooper, and they're using like the hills of the valley to like, propel the truck, around corners and to get to the nearest gas station. I don't know, it's just like, it's a really intense moment, and it's really well done in the midst of this like really chill hangout movie. And you talked about it as like a throwback too, because when I was reading up on how it was made, how like, basically, you don't see a whole lot of movies shot on film anymore, and especially not a whole lot of movies that are shot on film that don't go through like a digital intermediate. But apparently Paul Thomas Anderson shot this all on film, like did the color grading himself, didn't want it to go through like any digital intermediate, like wanted it to be like as pure as possible to capture this time period. And I don't know, like just reading that, I was like, hell yeah. Like, let's go make some movies. Let's go watch some awesome movies. Cause that just, I don't know, that gets my blood pumping. Like maybe people don't care about that or like that's too technical or whatever, but I don't know, just stuff shot on film has like a totally different look to it. And I feel like that's like one of the selling points of this movie, just like the way it looks and the vibe that you get. I don't think you could get that digitally, you know, so there's just something about film. I think like once, I'm sure one day in the future, like we'll stop using film or it won't be available, you know, in some way. And that's just something that we're going to lose, or I think that we've already kind of lost because so much stuff is just, you know, it's a lot easier to make digitally now. But man, yeah, I just love a good film grain and like the colors and stuff in this movie that you get from that. It's amazing. But yeah, the age thing did kind of creep me out a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I was like, I don't know what to do with that. But the actors, you know, the actors are so good in their roles that you are rooting for them to get together in the end. Like maybe despite like any modern, you know, tendencies that we might, you know, have grown up with, like, oh no, that's creepy, that's weird or whatever. But, you know, it's like these characters obviously belong together. And I feel like maybe that was a challenge that Anderson wanted to try and work with in making this, you know, I don't know. And I mentioned the story to my wife and I was like, well, maybe if she was like 20 and he was 16, or like, you know, if you changed the ages a little bit, but then you would lose so much of those characters too. So I don't think you could do it in any other way.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a conundrum. All I know is that it works. And like I said, it feels like the kind of vibe that's in this. I don't know, man. It reminds me of movies that just aren't made anymore that are enjoyable. I want more of this, man.
Yeah, me too. It's almost like, you know, it's like a nostalgia, like they say, that's bittersweet. Like there's a bitterness to nostalgia in a way. It's like watching this is almost like watching something that you've lost and being reminded about it, you know. But at the same time, we have this beautiful movie that was just made, you know, a year ago. So I don't know, man. We just need more of this stuff. It's a good feeling.
That felt very French, what you just said. Like there's got to be like 17 different French words that sum that whole idea up into one word.
Yeah, I think there is. And I feel like I've watched a movie recently that talks about a word like that, but I can't remember what it is. Maybe it was a Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Maybe so.
Maybe they said that in this movie. I can't remember.
I also dug that, just reading up about the movie later, that a lot of the things that happen in the movie are based on real life instances.
Yeah.
Of things that happen to either him or his friends or other acquaintances from the San Fernando Valley in California where he grew up and where this takes place. So I thought that was cool too.
Very cool.
Right on. Well, hey, speaking of those times, I'll talk about my last thing, which was going to be my second thing, but now I'm going to make it my third thing and my last thing, and that's Captive Audience, which is a documentary on Hulu. This is about Steven Stainer. This is a guy that was kidnapped from his family by this guy and then brought to another city and then raised as if he was this guy's son while this guy molested him, and while he just went and lived a normal school life outside of the house with friends under a different name and everything, which is already a really horrific and bizarre story. And then, I don't know, whenever he was like late in high school, the guy brought in another kid that he kidnapped and said, "This is your new little brother." And basically at that point, he just snapped and took the kid, and they got in a car one night while the kidnapper was asleep. I mean, they wandered like 20 miles down the street and hitchhiked and got rescued. And I remember this story from back in the day a bit because they made a TV movie about it called I Know My First Name is Steven, which I don't know if you ever saw this. It had Corey Nemec in it. It was from 1989. So I remember watching it when I was a kid because it was like really just the big Stranger Danger made for TV movie, because this guy, the kidnapper, basically pulled up, and he had an accomplice too, and he said, "Hey, like your parents, I'm with the church. Your parents wanted you to help me do something," and he was just a really trusting kid, and he got in the car. So this was like the made-for-TV movie where it was like, show your kids this so they know, like, do not get in a car with anyone that you don't know. And but it was based on a true story of this guy, and this documentary interweaves footage of that made-for-TV movie with real footage of him. And it's just this really insane, sad story, but then kind of this hopeful story in that he gets away, and he rescues this child who you think he's going to be bonded to this kid for life. And I did not know until this documentary what happened after that. But what happened after that is insane. Really, really crazy. So this guy, Steven Stayner, gets back to his family, and then he starts a family of his own, and it seems like he's going to be like this huge advocate for people, and he's going to do all this good in the world. And he has 2 kids, and they're young children, and a wife, and then he gets killed in a motorcycle accident, and he's dead. So it's like a second tragic chapter to his story, and I thought, wow, I didn't know that happened. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Well, Jordan, that's nothing, because you know what else happens? His brother, the guy's older brother, who always felt like he was overshadowed by the kidnapping of his younger brother and by his brother coming back and always kind of being antisocial and really having some really horrible issues, it turns out after his brother died, he went on a serial killer spree, Jordan.
Oh, Jesus.
So basically, it's about how these really insane things have happened to this one family, how nuts it is that this one family could undergo this much trauma and be the center of this much attention. But, man, it's a 3-part documentary. It's on Hulu again. They're all about an hour long, and it's just a crazy, really engaging story. But it really made me appreciate the 90s and Dateline TV in 2020 from back. I know they're still on now, but what they were in the 90s, Jordan. Because this whole story would have been a really riveting 1-hour episode of Dateline.
Right.
A 1-hour episode of 2020 that in like middle school on like a Thursday night I would have got sucked into after ER ended. But I feel like making it 3 hours long, like you put all this filler in, and it's a really engaging story. And I mean, I did enjoy the documentary overall, but my attention was starting to slip. And this is crazy that this happened. My attention shouldn't be slipping when I'm being told about it.
Right.
So it just made me miss the brevity and economy of Dateline in 2020. And I haven't watched those shows, and I've watched them maybe once since the 90s. Me and my wife were in Austin in 2016. We were at Torchy's Tacos, and we watched a 2020 episode there because it was on the TV at the bar.
That is
and it was pretty good, actually.
That is so specific.
It was about a lady.
I've been to that Torchy's. Yeah.
Well, there's like 17 Torchy's in Austin.
I've been to all of them, Nick.
Yeah, all 17. Well, yeah, that episode was about this woman that found this kid at a dumpster and adopted it, and then the twist in the episode of 2020 was that she was actually the mom the whole time of the kid. But so they still had it. They still had it. So maybe Dateline in 2020 are still good, but obviously the 90s are when I watched those.
Right.
And I wish Captive Audience could have been told in that style, because I think it would have actually done justice to everyone who is involved in this, whether it's Steven Stayner's family or it's the victims of Steven Stayner's brother. I feel like they all would have maybe be given their due better and something that was a little more concise. But anyway, Captive Audience, it's on Hulu. It's worth watching, but you might find yourself scrolling your phone. Maybe you do that already. Maybe everybody just scrolls on their phone while they're watching stuff but us. Or maybe we do that.
If you need something to scroll if you need something to play in the background while you scroll on your phone, watch this. I like how you brought it back to the 90s, though, and I like how you also mentioned, or I like how you called his brother, Steven Stainer's brother. He didn't mention his name, so he's still living in the shadow of his brother,
Yeah,
the
screw
more
that
famous
guy,
one.
man.
Well, yeah, he went on. He
Screw
was a
that
serial
guy.
killer, so yeah, kind of
Yes.
screw that dude. It reminds me of. Oh yeah, I told you I watched the new Scream movie. I'm not gonna. This isn't gonna be anything that I'll go into in depth, really, but it reminded me of a line there where they're basically like, "Screw these killers, let them live in ambiguity or in anonymity." I cannot say
Anonymity.
I still can't say it. I'm having a stroke
See
again.
anemone. No.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Anonymous
Historical
death.
inaccuracies.
That's right. Well, exactly. This is my new historical inaccuracies. Anonymity. Did I get close?
Yeah, that was close enough.
We
all know what you mean.
Anyway, we should, yeah. I guess we should leave it there. But yeah, it reminded me of that. Let that dude perish in anonymity, baby.
Yes, I dug that.
I still can't. All right, man. Well, good stuff. I feel like I've talked a whole bunch about a bunch of stuff, so I'll leave it at that.
Right on.
Unless you want to hear about my rewatch of Wall-E.
Wait, your relapse with what?
My rewatch of Wall-E.
Of Wall? Man, I only saw Wall-E once. It was in the movie theater with my siblings when we were all in our 20s, and I enjoyed the hell out of Wall-E.
Dude, Wall-E.
I thought it was really good.
Wall-E is a great movie. Yeah, I watched it. My son. All right, this is just one quick example of how great of a movie Wall-E is, though, for young and for old, because my son, who's 3, watched it with my 7-year-old boy one day, and then the next day I was sick, I was off work, and he was like, "Hey, I want to watch a movie." I was like, "Okay, cool." And he's like, "Let's watch Wall-E again." So he watched this movie. Well, I guess that's not saying a whole lot for kids, because kids do that a lot, right? They just watch the same thing over and over again. But I was just amazed that, like, this is a mostly like dialogueless movie with, starring these 2 robots, and just, everybody talks about it, but still the first 30 minutes of this movie is just gorgeous and insane and so well done, where it's like mostly just quiet, all shown through actions of, Wall-E on the earth and him like picking up the trash and finding different special treasures and stuff. But just the economy that they use and the way that they tell the story all through images. And my son and me are just like, I basically like put it on so he could watch it while I took a nap because I was super sick and tired. But I got sucked in and just watched the whole thing. So it was great. One of the few like animated films beyond like Miyazaki stuff that I gave 5 out of 5 to. I just think it's an awesome movie, and super tragic too, because I don't know, it just breaks my heart. This was, it's insane. It was made in 2008, and just to see like, I don't know, some of the foretelling they have of like people just like glued to screens and like getting obese in space and not having to do anything, and like just technology doing everything for you. And just like, I remember when I watched it in 2008 just being like, tearing my garments, like, like what have we come to as a society? And then still having that same feeling here, just like, oh man, humans kind of suck.
Yeah, man. I'm with you. Everything you just said, I'm with you. Even the score, it's a 5 out of 5 for me too. I love this movie. And it's funny. So my son and I went on a Adam Sandler watch. We didn't do these movies like back-to-back nights. It was over like the course of like a month or so. But we did Billy Madison,
nice.
Happy Gilmore, and The Waterboy, which I'm not going to talk about because we're definitely going to do episodes of those one day.
Yeah.
But man, like we both enjoyed those a lot, for sure.
That's awesome. Those early Adam Sandler movies, as you know, are like, I feel like part of my psyche, part of my vernacular, part of my personality. Like, Billy Madison, I still just, I will randomly quote in the middle of the day for no reason, out of context. And my wife is just like, "You're quoting Billy Madison again, aren't you?"
those movies have a very specific sense of humor, and
They
you know they
do.
weren't critically well regarded at the time. But when you watch them now, you're like, you know, a lot of this wasn't lazy. This was very intentional, and it actually holds up as just being really specific and singular.
Yeah.
So I mean, shoot, it's what 2022. They're like between basically 24 and 28 years old, and my kid thinks they're a lot funnier than a lot of the so-called comedies coming out now. So I'd say Sandler got the last laugh there, and us.
The last, nice.
And not the last laugh, because I think we'll probably keep laughing at these for a long time.
Doesn't he have are you making a joke there? Doesn't he have an album called The Last Laugh or something like that?
Yeah, probably.
Well, I know he's got the album They're All Gonna Laugh at You. And I remember the goat song. Do you remember the goat song? Or the goat?
Of course.
The goat
Of
story.
course I do. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Always bringing it back to the 90s here on Film Shake. So, good times, man. Well, yeah, good talking about all that. And hope our patrons enjoy. We'll try and get this up soon. And thank you guys again for all your patronage. And we'll catch you next time for more Film Shake.
Take it easy.
I am a simple goat. I live on the back of a pickup truck. The old man tied me here with a 3-foot rope. Am I happy? He don't give a fuck.
Hey, goat! I'm gonna beat your head in with the hickory stick!
Sometimes he uses his fists. He's filled with anger and filled with rage and tells me I smell like piss. His drink, Jimmy Bean, his chaser, a beer. After that, various alcohols. That's when the beatings get so severe. Asleep, I pray he falls. But don't feel sorry for me. Things weren't always this bad. Why, when I was a young talking goat, the old man was just like